Welcome to the Call to Action podcast, where we bring you incredible people and even more incredible stories with discussions and topics about what it takes to sacrifice everything to overcome hardships and failures to achieve success. Our guests heard the call. Now it's your turn.
Have you ever wondered how you could change the world by simplifying what we know to be true? Our next guest is doing just that with the thing you spend the most time doing, being inside your house. He has led his startup to raise nearly $4 million via crowdfunding and is completely changing the way housing is mass-produced. It's called Boxabl, and in less than an hour after arrival, a new homeowner can be enjoying a glass of wine inside their Boxabl home. It's so popular now that Elon Musk lives in one. He's also the co-founder of CoinHub, a popular crypto ATM service. And if he never told his naysayers to fuck off when telling him you don't need to reinvent the wheel when it comes to construction, he wouldn't be on the way to creating the Apple experience of the housing market with the efficiency of an Amazon fulfillment facility. Please welcome the real-life Bob the Builder and our next guest, Galiano Tiramani. Thanks for coming on the show, man.
Hey, thank you so much for having me on the show. I have told a lot of people to fuck off.
I'm quite... That was just an absolute assumption, but I don't know. There's like a kindred spirit. I've watched some videos like, man, he kind of seems like the guy that would just straight up tell you what's on his mind. But
of course he does.
Welcome to Call to Action Podcast. Before we get into the reasons, and we got you only for a short period of time today, we're going to put you through a prefrontal cortex warm-up like you've never experienced. It's a wild array of random rapid-fire questions. It's called the Brain Freeze Frenzy. Are you ready?
Let's do it.
First reaction when you heard Elon Musk was living in a casita?
Unfortunately, my reaction has to be, per my lawyers, no comment. Sorry.
Wow, okay. We should have started this with shots of something. I mean, who knows? All right, moving on, Galiano. Morning routine.
What I do first thing in the morning is just hang out with my kids and wife. Because they're nicer to me in the morning. By the end of the day, they're a little bit tired and grumpy.
I can say the same, man. I just had a newborn about 6 months ago, and it's about the same thing, man. We're all going through that. Keith's got one. Thanks, man. If you could get drunk or high with anyone in history, who would it be and why?
Well, I have not used drugs or alcohol for about 8 years. That may be contributing to my success. So I'll pass on that one. Maybe one of the founding fathers of the country, because I'm into politics. Let's go with Abraham Lincoln.
Beautiful.
What is the most single day pre-orders for Boxabl?
In a day? I have no clue. I'd have to pull up the chart, but it's probably got to be, I'm sure we had a day with 1,000 come in.
Wow,
that's
incredible.
We're at 60.
Yeah,
they're not necessarily pre-orders because they don't have deposits on them. But we do have 60,000 people on that list now. Most of which have come probably in the last year.
That's so cool, man. Congrats. We'll jump right into that as soon as we're done with this. Cinnamon Toast Crunch or Reese's Puff cereal?
Cinnamon Toast Crunch. I have a serious problem with that, actually. And my wife, she hides it every time it's in the house because I end up eating the whole box sometimes.
That's awesome. I'd go with the same, actually.
Yeah, ditto. Switching focus. Most surprising thing about building a startup from ground zero, since you have a couple of these?
Well, a lot of surprising stuff happens. A lot of crazy stuff that you wouldn't expect comes along all of a sudden, and it's pretty much on a regular basis. I'm just like, oh my God, this is crazy. And certainly with Boxabl, the trajectory we're on and the speed at which things are happening have been blowing our minds, and the interest level. You mentioned money raising at the beginning. We've now raised tens of millions of dollars beyond the 4 million that you mentioned. So that's been pretty crazy for me because none of my other projects I ever raised money for. And now that we've kind of whipped up all this interest through the good marketing, we've been able to bring in this money that we need that gives us the ammunition to execute.
Right.
So all kind of crazy stuff happening every day. One big learning curve I'm having now is managing a really big team, because I think we're up to easily over 60 people. So we are just dealing with managing so many different people.
Yeah, and since
That's
you
insane.
have such a hardware-intensive business, that raise makes a lot more sense in your industry. I'm just throwing that out there.
Yeah, this is no joke. I'm sitting right now in a 170,000-foot building, so you can imagine what the rent is like on something like that, not to mention all the equipment and everything else.
That's insane. What was it built real quick? Is it all big Boxabl manufacturing, or is it just the building you're actually in, or is it just standardized for a factory?
I'd love a Boxabl factory made out of Boxables that builds Boxables, but this is just a
Wouldn't that be cool?
yeah, this is just a concrete tilt-up shell that was built here, and then we leased it, and then we did kind of a custom fit out of the whole thing.
Just a couple more real quick. Any other famous or notable people with pre-orders for Boxabl that you'd like to market out there?
I don't know. I haven't even really looked at the list, and I don't want to speak out of school on anyone. So nothing to mention on that front.
Ben
Plead
and
the
Keith,
fifth.
I mean, we'll have one. Yeah, we've got to at CTAP
That's
at
for
some
sure.
point. We want to convert our entire enterprise over to your casitas, man. They're just they blow us away. And hey,
sick.
to that and to all of your other successful kind of entrepreneurship, all the businesses that you have going, what is one great and one shitty piece of leadership advice you've been given in your lifetime?
Advice I've been given?
Yes.
Some people try to make me be overly cautious, and I really hate that. And that comes from people who probably, had a career at an established company. So they want to be very careful and safe, and that's, you just can't do that when you're starting something new, because then you move too slowly. You have to,
Right.
You have to go fast and quickly, and have mistakes and all that kind of stuff. So I'm not very risk averse. I've done a lot of risky things, and I'll continue to, and it kind of pays off to make mistakes.
Amen.
Couldn't agree more, man. On that, you guys have really, really revolutionized, like I said in the intro, kind of the way I think people think about housing and buildings and just in construction in general. And man, I can now see the vision at like which you could scale this to. But where did it all start, and how did this concept to attack probably one of the biggest markets on planet Earth and flip it on its head?
Well, it was myself, my father, Paolo, and also Kyle Denman that started working on this back in 2017. The original idea to fold up the house came long before that, probably a decade before that, when Paolo had actually built a modular house. He experienced the problems with the wide load shipping and the cost and cumbersome nature of shipping these wide loads, and he just thought there's got to be a better way, and so he drew on a napkin the idea to fold the house up, and back then he had an intellectual property licensing company where he would basically invent stuff and sell the inventions, but nothing really came of it. Not a ton of work was put into it, and then 2017 I was actually sitting up in Northern California on my marijuana farm, which is what I was doing at that time.
Beautiful.
And I was just thinking of new business ventures as usual, and thought about his folding house idea, and called him up and said, "Hey, what about that idea? Let's maybe take another look at it." And then we started doing more research. A big part of the research focused on like what were the problems in the market, because it's not immediately obvious, what the problems are, and there's a lot of them. And then we started just, chasing it down and doing research and alternative building materials and testing and building prototypes, and got more and more traction. And at a certain point, I realized this is a huge opportunity here. Like bigger than anything else. So I totally bailed on everything I was doing up in Northern California and moved down here to chase this Boxabl down, and now things are accelerating quickly.
And to everyone who hasn't seen those Boxabl movies, go check it out. It's really stunning. It unfurls like an origami piece. Yet it's a house, and it's real life, and it's real size, and it's beautiful at that too. It's incredible, just watching it unfurl, almost as if it is once it's standing. It's really beautiful.
Yeah. Check out Boxabl.com and our YouTube. There's lots of content out there so people can get an understanding of what this is, and that fact that it folds, just the fact that it's cool and it catches people's attention has been a huge advantage for us because it's brought all this interest in.
Yeah, your marketing team has absolutely destroyed, I think, from the branding, the logo, the name is super modern and edgy, and without the E at the end. It's a lot of companies, successful companies, are doing this, and man, you guys fit right in the mold there. What from its original conception, is Paolo your father?
Yes.
So is he? You guys have obviously a very, I would guess, an Italian heritage. Is he from Italy or very close to it? Because man, I almost called you your last name Tiramisu the first time I said it out loud in my house.
Well, he actually grew up in London, so he's British.
Okay.
And but his whole family's Italian and from Italy, so he spent a lot of time in Italy as a kid. And now I think the only remaining relative we have in Italy is an 80, probably more than 80 years old great aunt who's a nun, and she lives in the nunnery up there.
That's so cool, man.
Rome.
I've been to some of those up there. Yeah, because the design and whatnot is super modern and it's very Italian. So I was wondering, just minimalistic and modern, and I was wondering if any of that played any role in kind of how you guys have developed the brand to where it is today. But yeah, man, it's pretty cool stuff. So the idea came about. You realized that there was this big potential for this. What was the next step? Were you okay, we've got to build our first one kind of out of pocket, bootstrap it, or did you guys go straight to crowdfunding and or whatever route you guys took initially?
No, we funded it initially, mainly Paolo. Several $1 million of his money went into this, so we've got quite a lot of skin in the game. And at first we just had website, some 3D renders, and an idea and drawings, and that was it. And then one day I just happened to get a call from the Builder magazine for the International Builder Show, and they invited us to bring a house to Las Vegas, to the convention center, to a little village they build outside every year when they have this show that it has modular houses in it. Okay. Got this call and they were like, yeah, you want to bring one of your houses down? And I was like, well, we don't really have any yet. But and then I had a meeting with Paolo and Kyle and said, do we want to commit to this and agree to it? Can we do it? And then we said, yes, this is a big opportunity, let's do it. And then we built the first prototype, delivered it to the show on time, not without a lot of issues. And then it was great, and things kind of went from there. So some of those issues that we had are pretty funny, so I'll mention them. For example, this is Las Vegas, and I didn't live here at the time, and my dad had just moved here, and it's the desert. It's 120 degrees in the summer, so the prototype we built didn't have a finished roof on it. It had basically big gaps where you could just see the sky. And then the morning of the show, it snowed in Las Vegas. And
no way.
So we were like, oh shit. So I was out there at 5 a.m. scraping snow off the roof. Meanwhile, the sun was coming up, the snow was melting, and water was pouring into the unit. So the whole unit was flooding, and this is an hour before the show starts. The snow's melting, the unit's flooding. I'm like, oh shit, this is terrible. But because the units are very water resistant because of the building materials we used, we managed to just dry it off and no one knew. And I think it happened.
wild.
I think it happened more than one morning as well, because the show was multiple days.
Yeah.
And it flooded. So it flooded every morning before the show.
The more eyeballs on there, like the more things just inherently are going to go wrong. That's how it is with every demo.
Yep.
We're in software, and and in fact, I kind of thought of this this morning. I was like, you guys are kind of like, I don't know if you've ever heard of Webflow, but it's like a no-code website builder that's phenomenal. And it's like, there's only a certain subset of reasons why you would have to do a very custom native website. Whereas the majority of people are either just trying to get information out there or set up a kind of a regular e-commerce store. And that's kind of like what Boxabl is for housing. It's like it's a one-stop shop, and you just kind of like go, boom, order, and it shows up. I'm assuming, I haven't done it yet, but it's pretty incredible. And the way that these types of business models have evolved over the last 5 years or so, and the successes in the rapidity of which these companies are reaching these successes, I can see this already getting to that point, and especially after the new kind of information on what you guys have raised outside of crowdfunding and things like that to get to where you are. And we want to get there real quick, but can you talk us through that? Because a lot of our listeners are kind of like entrepreneurial and have that bug, or just maybe they want to eventually. What was the crowdfunding with raised look like? How was it set up, and what's the background to that kind of look like?
So, once we got to the point where we had a product that we said this product is ready to be manufactured and sold, we decided to start raising money. And at that point, I started going out to like traditional venture capital institutional investors. And I just really didn't like the response or the vibe I got from them. It was not great. And then I think COVID kind of hit, and a lot of the ones that I was talking to were like, you know what, we're not doing anything for a few months until we see what happens to the world. And so I was like, all right, well, let me try something different. So I went ahead and did the first Reg CF on WeFunder, where basically we created our offer and we put it up there, and people came in and they invested, and it worked. And we sold as much as we wanted to. Everything was great, and I said, okay, this is a good strategy here. And Reg CF is for unaccredited investors, and you can also do Regulation D, which is for accredited investors. There's less restrictions around that on the amount you can raise and other restrictions. So after
on the Reg D?
Yeah, on the Reg D, yeah. Because that's for only accredited investors who meet a certain income threshold. So then after we maxed out the Reg CF, which was $1 million back then, I then said, all right, let's keep it going, because a lot of the investors were accredited. So then I just posted directly on our website and offering that accredited investors could invest in, and people kept investing, and money kept coming in and kept working.
Right. Really? So you can just leave that open essentially. And how does that process work? Like if I'm within the threshold and I'm just Joe Schmo, how would that process work? They go to the website, and then how does that work?
A really simple checkout process, just the same way as buying any other product for the most part. And they go in there, they read the deal, the terms of the deal. If they like it and they like the company, then they go through the checkout. I think it's like 5 steps. You can see it on our website right now, and then they're invested and they're in there. And I recommend this for any company, because you're basically flipping the whole power dynamic around, because if what you have is desirable for investors, you don't have to go out there and spend a lot of time pitching people and kissing their ass and all this other stuff that sometimes doesn't pay off at all. And then now what we have is just the offering sitting there. Our general marketing is reaching people, and it's reaching some people that want to invest in stuff, and they're coming and they're investing, and it works. And so then we did the next Reg CF after they raised the limit to $5 million, and that was for the $4 million remainder out of the total of $5 million.
Oh, so it kind of like just rolls into the next essentially version or iteration of it, correct?
Yeah, basically, you have to go through all these different exemptions to security laws, and it's really confusing
Right.
and crazy to deal with. But
no
when
doubt.
we did that next Reg CF, which is for unaccredited, that one, the second time around, sold out in 13 days. And now there's a big wait list sitting behind that. So incredibly powerful, and I recommend it to anyone. And there's pretty much no downside to it. And like some, institutional investors or traditional investors will try to act like there's a downside to it, but in most cases there isn't.
What's the upside? What's the difference in terms of dynamics for from the business owner standpoint? I mean, because when you go to an investment group, if you will, VC firm, or what you were trying to do initially, they're trying to bend you over backwards and essentially take over the company, correct? They were probably wanting over 50% right off the bat, or whatever the case may be, versus the crowdfunding, which I'm assuming you more control. Is that what it is? In terms of the
Exactly.
percentage?
Now I'm the one setting the terms. Take it or leave it. They're not setting the terms,
Right.
and I'm not giving them any control of the company because those are not the terms I set. And then it's kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy as well, because now when I go back to those guys, because we still talk to institutional investors all the time, because they will be part of this, and they are part of this.
Correct.
But now I say to them, if they say, oh, your valuation's too high, we want a different deal, I say, well, you're wrong. And I know you're wrong because these people over here are buying in the investment every day, and price is only what someone's willing to pay for something, supply and demand. So guess what? These are the
Interesting.
terms. If you don't like it, all these other people do, so you're going to miss out. Goodbye.
So they're still trying to weasel their way into that and try and downplay the credibility of this crowdfunding, huh?
They definitely do. And the funny thing is, what's their end game anyway? It's to flip the investments onto retail investors through the stock market or an acquisition. So we're basically skipping that step and going straight to these retail investors for the most part. So it just, everything about it, we're loving it, and we're going to keep running with it for as long as we can.
Yeah, it makes so much sense. And, the proof is in the pudding here.
Which platform did you guys use?
The main platform we're using now is actually called fundamerica.com, and all it is it's basically a payment portal that has some of the extra features that you need for regulatory compliance, because the government's added in all of these extra ridiculous rules about getting extra documentation from people and checking their IDs and all this stuff. So this platform just kind of does all that in an easier way, and it creates the checkout portal, and we absolutely love them. It's sweet. We don't even have an investment bank on our deal. It's just straight to us through Fund America, which is hosted directly on our platform, and then you can go and post on Start Engine or WeFunder or Republic and these other crowdfunding portals, and that's good as well. But I like having it directly on our website, because then we're controlling the whole process. We're capturing all the information. We're capturing the pixel data for Facebook retargeting ads, and we're putting up forms for them to put their email in, so we can hit them with an email after. So it's really nice. We are doing stuff on those platforms as well to capture their audience, because they have ready investor audiences sitting there who want to invest.
Exactly.
So let's jump into that.
Pre-qualified, essentially.
Exactly, but we're driving most of the traffic. We're driving most of the investment through our own marketing, and we're just capturing it right on our website.
So early on, you were able to use your own marketing to get people interested into Boxabl, because figure before you had a name for stuff, I would think those platforms you mentioned might be the way to go, because they're already quite popular. How did you guys go about drumming up the support behind the brand, just before the brand really existed?
Yeah, and you mentioned the good marketing department we have here, and I like that compliment, because I'm the marketing department. At least for the next.
It's working.
Yeah, at least for the next few weeks. I think we're hiring on some new people now, but really it's been mostly social media. And back when I started, I didn't really understand anything about marketing, and I was trying to get just traditional press from like, you know, the local news or whatever, or another big news publication. And we got it a few times and it didn't really pay off that much. And then one day I was like, you know what, let me try YouTube. So I made a list of some channels with relevant audiences. I sent them a message, said, hey, you want to do a video on our product? One of them replied. It was a lady named Christina Smallhorn, and she has a video about channel about housing, and she did a video on us. And all of a sudden I saw results that were better than anything else we had gotten. You know, web traffic's up, email inquiries are up, everything. So I was like, all right, this works. This is great. Let's double down. At that point, I kind of went overboard a little bit. I hired some people on Upwork to write a little script that would scrape the contact information off of YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, whatever. If a channel posts their email, then we would scrape it off after searching like relevant keywords. So then I created these big mailing lists with like thousands of emails for channels, and I blasted them all with emails and said, hey, you want to make a video about us? And a few of them did. And then things kind of started to spiral.
Did you pay them to make it, or was it just like, hey, just make it and...
No, I didn't pay anyone to make it. They just did it because they wanted their own content, and mostly they're getting paid on their own through YouTube ads or whatever. Some of them asked for money, and I just said no, thank you. And maybe we would do that in the future if it was a big enough channel. We maybe would pay, but we just didn't have to. And then things started happening more organically, and you know, now people are mostly coming to us wanting to, you know, feature our stuff because their audiences like it too.
It's a very unique idea, and it stands apart from so many of the other manufactured homes. It's very cool. How many people order Boxabl and then like are there the day, part of the unfurling ceremony? Because I mean, it's almost like the 50, you live in it 50% of the time, but then like watching it unfurl is like the other excitement, you know?
Yeah, it's kind of cool.
Well, no one just yet, because we're just starting. So we basically have built 3 houses so far. And now we've set up this big manufacturing facility, and actually the first production house is on the assembly line right now, going down the assembly line.
Oh, okay.
Wow, so we're part of history.
Yeah, you are. I know this is a podcast, but since you're on video.
No, it's video as well.
Okay, so look, so this is the office.
Give us the tour.
So we got you know, all these people here working. This whole office is about as big as our entire warehouse was before. And then this is the factory out here.
Oh, perfect. I love that it's all connected back to back.
For anyone listening, it's like a home fucking depot of just Boxabl materials and machines. And it is, dude, that is incredible. How good do you feel looking out there and knowing that you've been there since day one, essentially, and gotten it to this point? Like, how incredible is this feeling?
It's pretty glorious. It really is. I'm in disbelief.
Your shits must be gold in the morning.
They are. I'm gonna take you for a ride on my motorcycle right now. We'll do a quick we'll do a quick tour.
This is a first. I love it, dude.
This is exciting.
This is badass.
Wow.
We're having a nice employee lunch in there right now. So they're just setting up the tables.
That is so sweet.
So
we're getting a tour for anyone listening. He's on a motorcycle.
I'm on a motorcycle one-handed holding a laptop.
Literally. Quite literally.
This is the
badass.
This is the really important piece of equipment here. This is a vacuum lamination system. So we basically have these layers of the wall, and we're not building these walls using traditional materials like lumber nails. We're using that EPS foam blocks. We're using sheets of steel and a special type of ceramic wallboard. And basically it's dramatically reduced components. Everything's processed by computer controlled equipment so that it's very precision and can assemble together rapidly and be compatible with automation. So totally different than anything else out there, and it results in hopefully a dramatically lower cost and better ratings on energy. Ratings are off the charts on these. Fire rating, water resistance, wind resistance. It's really.
I watched you take a torch to the side panel of one of those houses, and it did not even charred even a little bit. That's incredible.
Yeah, it's cool. So we picked, one of the materials we picked is this magnesium oxide board that actually is like totally non-combustible. It's better than sheetrock for fire, and yeah, it doesn't even turn black when you hit it with a torch. So here's our paint booth set up.
Wow.
Some cars, some
That
finished
is
walls.
so cool.
Here's these are
It's
cool.
wild to drive down there. That's so deep.
Oh, it's a big building, yeah. That's why we have the motorcycles. These are actually folding. These are actually I-beams that fold up, and they're just as strong as if they weren't folding. But here's the important part. I'm going to show you the house, the first house on the line.
Yes.
It's history right here.
Oh my god. That's so cool, man.
So there it is.
We are literally part of history. The first freaking house.
Yeah, the panels. They're assembling all the panels for the first time. You know, we've gone through a bunch of versions of the product. So the version we built in the last prototypes is different than this one, and the version we actually already have a next gen after this production run that we're doing now, with some significant improvements on it. So like, you know, we draw everything in 3D on the computer, and then, you know, buy stuff and put it together and hope it all works. But it's pretty amazing, like, you know, when you draw it on the computer and it actually comes together like you planned.
Yeah, man.
So yeah, that's
so
the bottom
incredible.
floor that folds up, and then that's the fixed portion in the back where the kitchen bathroom would go.
Okay. What does it take from start to finish, you know, order to manufacturing? What does it take for that to go down the assembly line?
So we are estimating that we will be able to produce one house final output every 90 minutes, and that it will take about 200 labor hours per house. So hopefully this factory can produce 3,000 or so per year.
Wow, that's incredible. And for everyone listening right now, knowing that they're going to order their own Boxabl, what is the wait time?
I don't know, because we got to see, you know, we have this huge wait list. 2,000 people have paid a deposit, 60,000 people put their name on the list without a deposit, and we'll see how many of those people follow through. We'll see how fast we can actually gear up to that full production output, and we'll kind of see how it goes. But I will be making the case for, you know, the next level of scaled factory ASAP. I think of this factory just as a prototype and a proof of concept. As soon as I can, I want to flush this whole factory down the toilet and get into $1 billion factory, because 3,000 houses, it's a big factory, but it's nothing compared to the need for the product. You know, we have a multi-million house shortage in this country and elsewhere, and no one's able to keep up. So we got to scale the production as soon as we can, and I think we're proving all the basics out here to make the case for that.
That's incredible, man.
Amen.
I know we got to let you go. Leave us and our listeners a last bit of advice. Like, when you first started this journey down with Boxabl, man, like, what would you go back and tell yourself to essentially either calm yourself or say, hey, man, go down this road, not that, or focus on this or that? What piece of advice would you give yourself?
You know, I would just say probably don't listen to anyone who's telling you can't do something. You know, consider carefully what they're saying, but mostly you can just do whatever you want in this life, and really you just have to work harder than everyone else, and then you can achieve, you know, really a hell of a lot, and it's amazing. The other thing is just like brute force persistence, because, you know, a lot of people give up on the first or second or third or 10th failure. But you can't, and it gets really grueling sometimes. You just got to keep going and keep going and keep going.
This man is truly an innovator and one of those kinds of people that make you rethink the way we normally do things in life. He heard the call and took action. Galiano, thank you for coming on the show, man. We appreciate you and your story, and welcome to the CTAP family, my man.
Thank you so much.
Woo!